was my take on the guitar solo from the song All Right Now by the band Free. It was played by the band's guitarist Paul Kossoff, who arguably had one of the greatest ever vibratos. Allegedly, Eric Clapton asked Paul Kossoff how he did his vibrato. Also, Joe Bonamassa sings the praises of Paul Kossoff's vibrato in this video.
You know, Kossoff, I mean, a lot of my vibrato comes from him, you know.
Paul Kossoff was born on September the 14th, 1950 in North London. Unfortunately, he died very young on March the 19th, 1976. He was only 25 years old and he'd been battling with drug abuse for many years. When I was younger, Paul Kossoff was one of my biggest guitar heroes. In fact, I did my best to try and look like him. Here's a photo of me back then and a photo of Paul looking similar. I was lucky enough to meet Paul's father a couple of times. David Kossoff, he was a famous actor and he used to travel around schools doing a one-man show called Late Great Paul. The idea of the show was to try and educate young people the perils of drug abuse. There was loads in this show about Paul's guitar playing, loads of family photos and a very moving story told by his father. At the time, Paul had only been dead between 10 and 15 years. After one of these performances, one of my teachers, Mr. Marsh, took me backstage to meet David Kossoff. David looked at me and he said, "You look a bit like him actually," which of course was the ultimate accolade for me, as that was what I was attempting to do. And I got David to sign this record for me. This was one of Paul's solo records and he signed it here. He signed it here, David for Paul Kossoff. Paul famously played a Les Paul with Free most of the time and Marshall amps most of the time, although apparently he may have used a Selmer amp on the recording of All Right Now. But I'm not trying to recreate the sound. There's lots of videos online showing you how you can recreate that sound. What I'm trying to concentrate on is the vibrato. Now, apparently Paul used a heavy gauge of strings. He used 11s generally. Now Les Paul has a shorter scale length, so the strings are under less tension, so slightly easier to bend. But this Telecaster has got 10s on it, and if Paul used 11s, then this is probably a similar setup. What I'm trying to concentrate on is the vibrato. Paul's vibrato was phenomenal. Here's a couple of live clips where you can really see what he's doing and hear it clearly. Okay, so the vibrato. Now I've seen lots of videos online of people explaining how to do this vibrato, but I'm not sure how accurate they all are. There's a couple of things they all seem to do which I don't think are quite right. Now, I'm not saying I've got it 100% right, but let me try. Quite often the first thing that people seem to do, they seem to be shaking the neck and moving their fingers. Now that for me, it gives you a kind of weak vibrato and inconsistent. It's very difficult to do it in that way. I think the secret to this vibrato, firstly, I believe you need to anchor your hand on the guitar. So you're not moving the neck and you need to lock your fingers in position. You don't want to be pushing your fingers like that or flattening your fingers. That doesn't work for me. You need to be pivoting your wrist like that. Hopefully you can see that. And you need to be locking your fingers in place and then rotating your wrist kind of like that. And then you've obviously got to get it at the right speed. So here we go, let's try it. Or on a non-bend. It's quite a fast vibrato. Let's try up here, it might be more noticeable. The end of the solo. Well, hopefully that gives you some insight on how to get that vibrato. I think I've got it quite close. I've had lots of people come up and ask me over the years, say, how do you do that Paul Kossoff vibrato? I've never really thought about it until now, but I thought it might be useful to do a video on it. Please leave me any comments or suggestions on more videos I could do. Please hit subscribe and the bell so you get notified when I upload a new video. And I'll see you next time. Bye.